What's up, guys? I'm Holly if you're new here, and if you're returning, thanks for coming to another video. I'm telling you guys how to start adding in a little bit of running to your lifting routine. Now, I got this request in my last video I did about how to add lifting into your running routine, and we're gonna do the reverse today because it's very important, and if anyone understands the struggle, it is me. I've always had a lot of muscle, even naturally as a kid, and then of course as I got into CrossFit and weightlifting and stuff, I've always just really put on and kept a lot of muscle. So as I got into my running routine, I started to figure out ways to make this work for me and not take away. So if you're struggling right now, I hear you loud and clear, and today I'm gonna give you all the best tips to make running feel easier basically right away and give you a little weekly routine to do to start adding it in that doesn't feel too overwhelming. Let's start with some really good news, which is that your body is ready to run well. You have the strength to support the best possible run form. I'm gonna teach you how to do it right now and use this form in your running, but you already have the muscle to back this up, meaning the impact from running is not gonna affect you the way it would someone without any muscle. So at the very core of it, running is just a series of single leg squats. Every time that you land, you are using your big muscles, your glutes, hamstrings, quads, to catch that step and then transfer weight to the other one. So really, as we pick up our feet when we run, we want to be thinking this way from the get-go. What that helps us do is keep our alignment and also make sure that we're not overdoing it on the smaller areas of our body that aren't meant to take that impact. So when we start to find a smaller step when we run versus a large step, where we're really pushing off, almost like a sprint, we find that we save a lot more energy this way. So if you guys are going out to run and you're hoping the form just kind of comes to you, you might be reaching out farther than you should be. So what I want you guys to do, and you can go through this with me now or you can watch it later and go through it then, I want you guys to start to just find a really small step under your hips to start. And we're gonna find a way to make this small step both fast and slow, and I'm gonna get to that later, but don't feel like the length of your step is the only control we have over our speed. We can still move fast with this form I'm showing you here. So I'm gonna have you guys start just pulling one knee up to the chest and then the other, almost like a little march in place. You can have hands on your hips or just down by your sides. Start to draw the belly button in and pull these feet up, just like this. Good, so this is gonna be a way that we start to feel what it's like to bring our foot off the ground in more of a pulling motion rather than a push off, which we might have been doing so far up till now. So just like this, and now let's switch it to a butt kick. We're gonna pull one heel up and then the other one, just like this. Abs are still on, we're gonna try to push those hips forward, just like that. All right, and then from here, guys, we're gonna find something right between the two that I just showed you. So between a high knee and a butt kick will be a number 4. So my knee still comes up, but I'm also using the hamstring to pull that foot right under my hip. So I come up just like this, number 4, and then bring it down. And I can try the other one and bring it down, just like this. And keep doing this here, but you're gonna now relax the ankle. So I'm kind of flexing right now, I'm gonna leave it loose. So up and down, and I'm gonna almost slam it to the ground. Up and down, just like this. So I've got the hamstring working and I'm also still pulling my feet off the ground. Now let's start to make that smaller. So just a little bit off the ground, but same exact motion, just like this. What you might start to feel, even as we're just stepping here, is your glutes are starting to work. And you might not have felt that before when you run, because again, if we're leaned forward and reaching out, we might never have our hips under us, meaning our glutes can never help support our landings. So what we're gonna be doing when we run is just these mini steps. That's all it is, but you find it's much easier to keep the hips forward during this versus reaching and leaning. So we can keep our hips right under us, we're upright, we're loose in the upper body, and we're landing right in the middle of our feet. So almost as if you're picking a piece of gum up with just the middle of your sole, that's kind of how that goes. And you land down the same way, but you're thinking up, up, up versus reach and slam into the ground and push off. So you can just practice this in place. It's gonna maybe feel like a prance and kind of weird, and you might be thinking, how do I take that forward? It feels like I can only do that in place. You're going to use your hips and force behind your hips to get you going forward. So pretend that I'm pushing you guys from right back here into that run. You're slightly leaned at the ankles, just a hair, and you're taking this form forward. So I start with my little jog, a little lean, pretend I'm pushing here, and I take it forward. But I'm bringing my hips with me as I move across. Now, This is gonna feel really weird at first, so I don't want everything to be consumed by this form right away. Little bits of practice here and there will eventually bleed over to work, but you get the concept here. We're picking up nice and light, and we're leaving the ankles loose, and now our butt and bigger muscles can help us in our running with our landings. So you guys might be like, that's a lot of work to go change my form if I'm just gonna go run a little bit each week. Why does it matter? 2 reasons. Number one, it's gonna be way easier to breathe running this way. I promise you that. So much energy you're gonna save, which might make it so you can run longer without having to stop. Second thing, as someone, I really understand this, having that muscle mass, that added weight, it does matter how we land, no matter how far we're going, because it all compounds on itself. And I will say we are at a little bit of a disadvantage there than someone who's lighter, who's not gonna feel maybe that residual impact so soon. We really will. If we're moving poorly and we're doing it over and over again, even in small chunks, we're gonna feel that, which might make us injured, which means we can't even get in the gym. We don't want that to happen. So trust me on this. Moving along to another advantage you guys already have as people who lift. You understand breathing. You know how to use your breathing to lift heavy. This is gonna be really helpful in using your breath to run. Now, one way I like to manage output when I run to know how hard I'm really working is if I'm able to take deep breaths, at least a few every few minutes. If I cannot take a deep breath, I'm shallow breathing, it feels very panicky the whole time, I'm doing too much. I want to slow that down and make it easier on my body so that I can sustain for longer, especially in the beginning. So those deep nose breaths, 2 hands on the stomach, getting your breath in so that it gets all the way down to the diaphragm. We go big inhale, fill up, and then blow out. And you can blow out through your mouth or your nose. But we are using the inhale through the nose to reset and get that deep breath going, and you'll watch it really, really stabilize that heart rate. So anytime I'm out there, even in the heat or running faster or anything, and I feel like I'm losing my breath a bit, I always slow it down and I go big inhale and then blow it out, just like that. So a good way to practice this is in a power walk at first, if you're doing a run walk system, which we're gonna get to everything that I want you guys to do for workouts, but in your faster walks, practicing those breaths, and then as you get into the jogs and the slow runs, I want you guys to practice 1 or 2 of those nose breaths every few minutes. That will always reset back to a level that you know you can sustain. Another way people do this is through conversation pace. They use conversation as their guide. Can I form a sentence? Can I do broken up words? Can I not get a single word out? I'm probably going too fast. I won't be able to go very long. But these things combine together, and I really think you guys have an advantage here because you are used to using your breath to do output in your strength work and in your lifts. Speaking of output, guys, I know it's so tempting to just stare at the numbers on the watch. How fast are you going? Are you faster than yesterday? Did you run farther than you did last week? It's really ingrained in us as people who have been in the gym a lot because the gym is so numbers focused. How heavy are we lifting? How many sets? Are we doing more than last week? Are we building on a progression plan? It feels very natural to use numbers in our running as well. But in the beginning, if you stay so focused on that rather than how you feel going off of perceived effort, you will find that confidence is very hard to come by. It's gonna be very rare that you have a good day if you're so focused on what you're not stacking up to. So if you can just roll with the punches for at least a few weeks, not staring at that, you're gonna be a lot better off. And what I'm gonna show you right now is a really good way to run both slow and fast to make that slower running feel comfortable. Because what I hear from a lot of people is that, yeah, that's all well and good. I'll run that way. I'll slow it down so I can actually take those deep breaths, but it's really heavy and uncomfortable feeling. I'm gonna show you we can have a high cadence at any speed. So here's what you're gonna do, guys. That same motion I just showed you, that pickup, we're gonna use that. And I'm not gonna use a metronome or anything today, but you can use a free app. I'll find one and link it for you guys. Also on a lot of the watches, they have a metronome built in, so you can just hear that beep at certain rhythms, cadence, etc. But we're gonna find a way to feel comfortable at a high cadence, no matter what speed we're going. So what I'm showing you guys here is that with this light little pickup step we've formed, using force from our hips, we can determine how fast we want to take that forward. What we don't need to do is then slow down that step if we are going slower, covering less ground over time. So this might feel a little wordy and sciencey, but just roll with me here. What we can do is find a high cadence in place with those loose ankles and just nice small steps, barely picking those feet up off the ground. And then we can take that forward, but I don't need to add so much force to those steps. So I can actually go quite slow with that high cadence. It's gonna look really weird right now, But trust me, when you're actually out doing it and a little bit leaned forward, it starts to feel comfortable because you feel like you're taking the right amount of steps, even though you're covering less ground. So you can breathe easier, you can have that conversation pace, but you're not slogging along heavy on each step. That might be why it's so uncomfortable to go slower in the beginning. Same token here, we can go the same cadence here, and I can take that quickly forward and keep that up. So I'm taking my quick steps and I'm just adding a little bit more power behind. Arm swing is a big piece of this as well. We're not really getting into that today. But if you find it's uncomfortable to slow down, I recommend increasing your cadence just a little bit. Doesn't need to be a certain number or anything. Maybe start at 170 and see if you can get it around 180, at least for portions of your run. But that'll make it so you're still taking the right amount of steps, just going a little bit slower forward. I also wanted to mention, guys, if you're having trouble keeping your hips forward or even knowing when they are forward, go back to a basic air squat. So just squatting it down. And as you stand up, squeeze the butt and really push the hips forward. That is the sensation of the hips staying forward in order for you to pick the feet up easily. If your hips are behind you, it's a lot harder to maintain that higher cadence or any good form in general. So squatting it down and standing it up reminds your hips what to do. I really recommend a couple of air squats every so often throughout a run as well, just to keep our form fresh. All right, so let's talk logistics. How are we gonna add some running into your routine in a way that doesn't feel like a huge time suck? I don't want it to feel like I'm taking lifting away to force running in, especially when running probably isn't very comfortable right now. So we wanna kind of habit stack here on what you're already doing. I recommend in the first 2 weeks of this that you keep your lifting schedule exactly as it is, and you're gonna pick 3 of those days to pair with a 15-minute run walk. Now this can happen before or after your workout, but I want you to make time for it. And if you have to drop a little bit out of that strength workout, cut a couple sets to make time, I suggest you do it just to really get a consistent schedule going. So this can be the warm up, it can be the cool down, it doesn't matter, but 3 of those days, you're gonna do a 15-minute workout. It's gonna be the following: 2 minutes of a power walk, very brisk, working on those deep inhales through the stomach, blow it out. Just a few of those in that walk, but you're practicing moving quicker in a brisk walk with the deep breath. Then you're gonna take it to a 3-minute very slow jog. In that jog, you can think a little bit about form, but not too crazy, just here and there. See if you're picking your feet up correctly. Maybe think a little bit about cadence, maybe 1 or 2 of those nose breaths, but it's a small chunk of time, and then you go back to that walk. So just 3 rounds, 2-minute walk, 3-minute slow jog. You're done with that, and then you go into your strength workout, or if it was your cool down, strength workout is already done. That's the first 2 weeks. In the second 2 weeks, I want you guys to keep the same thing I just said for 2 of your strength days, not 3, just 2. And I want you to drop the walk time to 1 minute, and the jog time goes up to 4 minutes. So a little bit more time to practice that form. Like I said, don't let it take over the whole workout, but just here and there, little bits to practice and think about, and then let the rest just sink in. 1-minute walks, you are using your deep breaths there, you're really resetting and letting yourself get used to doing that at the elevated heart rate, which can then translate to your jog. Now that's 2 days. On the 3rd day, I actually want it to now be a dedicated run day. I only want 30 minutes for this. So I recommend you do this on a non-lifting day so you really can be focused on this, but here's how I want you to spread it out. First 10 minutes of that 30-minute workout will be the following: 3 minutes jog, 2 minutes walk, just like we did in the first 2 weeks of our 15-minute set. So 3 and 2 for the first 10 minutes. Then for the second 10 minutes, I want you guys to do 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 1 minute on, 1 minute off. Walking, jog, walk, jog. It'll be a little annoying to keep up. This will be the only time I'm saying look at the watch. We're not looking at pace, we're just looking at counting the time. And this will be a good way to feel like you're starting to elevate the heart rate in a manageable way and you get used to that higher heart rate in the jog. Last thing we're gonna do, that last 10 minutes, I want you guys to do a 5-minute jog, a 1-minute walk reset, and a 4-minute jog to finish. If you want, you can pick up the pace a little at the end, but that'll get you more comfortable in the longer space of jogging. That'll be the whole workout, and that's gonna happen on that dedicated run day in the second 2 weeks. Hopefully that's all making sense. I can also drop in the notes, the description, so you know what I'm talking about. But that's gonna get you guys started here. And as it starts to feel easier, I really just recommend taking away those walks, keeping it slow, and when you feel like you can control your breathing and conversation at your pace, you will know, wow, I'm getting better at running. You will finally feel like a runner. You can actually watch my other videos dedicated just to running. And that'll happen so quickly because you guys already work out, you have that level of fitness. If after those first 4 weeks and you've done everything that's feeling good, but you don't really know how to keep it interesting moving forward, I do have a Patreon I've mentioned in other videos. $3 a month is all it is. It's linked down below, and you're gonna have 24, almost 25, I'm working on that this next week, run workouts to do. They're follow along run workouts, and you guys can do them. A lot of them are geared towards beginners, and I feel like they're a nice time frame for you guys to add it in if it's just one dedicated run day a week. Let me know if you have more questions about that. Otherwise, guys, you will know that running's getting easier because you choose when you're stopping in the middle of a run versus having to stop. That is the best feeling in the world. I know you're very close to it. You just have to stay consistent. Now, I can't let you guys out of here without my most important tip of the video, which is that as much as they want to box us into lifter or runner, I am living proof that you can and should do both if you want to. I feel my most athletic, my most fit when I'm lifting and running equally. And the only way my body is able to do that year after year is by taking care of itself. I have to make time for stretching and regular restoration in my body. If I don't, I definitely feel like these two things are not at their prime. So I don't want you to feel like your lifting's getting in the way of your running or your running's getting in the way of lifting. And I do that through stretching. You stretch a couple minutes before and after every single workout. It doesn't need to be long, 2 or 3 minutes. Dynamic stretch in the warm-up, so movement-based. Static-based as much as possible in the cool-down, so breathing through a static hold stretch. And then picking 2 days during the week, 10-minute session, I really recommend, of foam rolling, normateching, getting a massage, cold plunge, something that's dedicated to bringing that body back to neutral. Otherwise, guys, your lifting is going to feel very stagnant. It's not going to feel as mobile as you'd like it to be. We need range of motion in our lifting to be strong. Same thing with running. We're going to feel heavy, weighed down, and tight in our running if we're not mobilizing after a good lifting session. Don't get in your own way here. This piece is really, really important. I'm living it. I'm telling you, if I ignore that stuff for a while, it really starts to catch up with me. Once again, guys, you have a huge leg up on those of us who haven't started a fitness routine at all. You are already used to working out regularly. This is going to be easy if you stay consistent. So please let me know how it goes. If you have any questions or want to know more about those follow along workouts, let me know. Love you guys, and I will see you soon. Bye.